The studio is
Hi
too
everybody.
It's too
Hi everybody. I'm with SWA. My name is Guy Magallanes, and I'm going to be doing a demo today. And the premise of this is, can this painting be saved? So as I'm painting and I do a lot of my classes, a lot of students are following along. And some people are very, how shall I say, impatient, and that sounds so bad, but, or they just go ahead, they know what they're doing, and if somebody gets in trouble, it's like sometimes they don't know how to fix it. Or sometimes people get afraid, they've reached a certain point and they're liking the painting and they're afraid to finish it. So that's what this premise is about. But I wanted to talk about SWA, and if you go to my website, I have a link for you to go to the Society of West Coast Artists. And I hope you would become a member. There's a lot of benefits to joining. They have jury competition, and if you get into a show, you get points, and you can go ahead and you accumulate enough points, and then you can become a signature member. There's a lot of free demos and art lectures, and you also get a discount on workshops, and you can also have a listing of your website on their website, which is really good, and you get to network with a lot of other artists. So if you go to Society of West Coast Artists, and if you go to the home page, there's a tab called How to Join, and if you're not a member, there's a form that you need to fill out. It's right there, and you could mail a check in, or you can pay by PayPal, and it's right there on that page, so it's real easy. So anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get started. Woo, it's a hot day here. So I'm going to go ahead and switch to my overhead camera. Move this out of the way. All right. So this is a painting that I did, and this was of a beautiful butterfly on a French marigold, and this was taken from Filoli. And I followed that little hummingbird butterfly around, and it started, when it finally calmed down, started eating, it was dancing around this little flower. And anyway, so this was a guided class, and I have a wonderful student who decided to paint with me. And this is what I was talking about, where she went ahead and she got really confused, and she decided to do a dark background. So this is something I don't know if I'm going to have time today, but I would love to work on this. And if I don't want to start something that I can't finish during this demo. So, but I probably will do this on another demo. But anyway, I love it. So you can tell when somebody gets really frustrated or confused, they're going ahead, which I love, is making up their own decision on how to treat it. But I can see all the colors underneath, and I can lift that up. Another one that I got was this, and I have one that's finished, and this is a wonderful red dahlia. My red dahlia is deeper and starker. I use some neutral tint with it, and I can see where she found everything, and she just started putting her neutral tint in, but she got stuck, especially up here. And right up here, we did this wet on wet, and it kind of got a little away from her. So this is what I want to work on right now. I'm not going to work on this, but I'm going to work on the background and just showing how to soften that out. So it's what's happening is we've got petals coming out and they come to points, and then we've got these points coming in. So I kind of wanted to have something softer so that it's not mimicking what's happening with the petals there. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead, get some color ready, and I have a myriad of brushes over here, and so I'm going to get some yellow ready for me. And it might look a little brownish, but it really is yellow. It's one of my favorite yellows, which is transparent yellow. And I'm also going to get some permanent rose out. And these brushes, I love these brushes. And I know some people are going to be asking, what brushes are they? Well, these were the low Cornell brushes, which I absolutely loved, and that they went out of business. Well, the guy that started this went and started a new company, and it's called King Art, and they are the original gold. And if you're going to buy these, make sure it says the max round, and it's series 9020. This is a 14, this is a 12, and I have a brush for my yellows, I have a brush for my reds, and I have a brush for my blues. Okay, so this is phthalo blue, which I love. Okay, so I've got my colors ready for me. So I'm just gonna mix those in, make sure they're ready for me. Oh, and I should put on my right glasses. And I'm gonna switch over right in here, and I'm gonna zoom in a little bit. So I'm figuring that this is background, all of this right here is background. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to get that wet for me. So I'm using a different brush here, which is a Rosemary & Company brush, and it is a sable and synthetic blend. So it's really soft, so it's not going to be moving colors underneath. Oh, I could have done that separately. But anyway, I'm just going to go ahead and get this wet. I'm not worried about the edges. And I have a nice sheen on here. Hi, Mo.
Hi.
I'm working on your painting. Oh, I shouldn't have said your name. Oh, well, who's going to know, right? And so I'm getting it wet. I'm not so concerned about getting right up to the edge. And I don't know if you can see that. But I'm getting this good and wet. And it's a light brush. This is a 14. This is a 12. And so what I'm going to do now, while this is wet, I'm going to go ahead and put some color in, and I'm going to let it obscure. So it's just going to go ahead and soften over it. So if I'm just laying this in, that helps. I'm not painting so much. And now what I'm going to do is, while it's wet, I'm just going to drop in some yellows. And I'm all of a sudden really shaky because this is not my painting, and I can't believe some of my students are letting me paint on their images. But I think it's great, and I hope this is going to be a wonderful tool for people. Okay, so that's a bit softer, and I wanted to break up some of the harshness that was there. So I'm just going to put a little bit of blue in here. I'm going to put some in here just to break it up. Going to get my water brush, going to soften this out again. If it's not moving, I could always go ahead and get that wet. Let that travel. I'm being patient while I'm being nervous. But, and I'm going to get a smaller brush. I'm going to go ahead, get that in there. And I'm just letting the paint move. And let's see, what I wanted to do was have it less pointy in there. So I'm letting the colors move right now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit more yellow in here to get that a little bit more orange, because it's so close to what the flower is. And I'm going to let that yellow blend into that blue. It's moving over here and softening, but there's a big jump between the background and the flower now. And so what I want to do is get a little tiny bit of, because this is so wet, I can put color down in here and it'll lift off. Now, I want to be sure I just dropped a fleck of blue in here. I want to get that off. And ooh, that phthalo blue is so stunning. Okay, so I'm going to let this come down towards the edge here. And I see how these colors are softening all in their own, and we have a little bit more rounded shapes in here, which I'm really happy with. And as I start putting the color in, I'm also letting it soften and move. I'm not painting so much, and I'm using gravity to tilt so that all of the pigment will move. And I'm going to put a little bit of blue in here. I can see the paper shaking because I'm holding it, so I must be really nervous. But it's good to be nervous. You know you're alive. Okay, so now I kind of want to clean up an edge in here. And so I'm getting yellow. I'm going to move it this way. And I am going to put yellow down, but it's picking up the red that's there. And I'm just cleaning up that edge. And over here it's still damp. So I'm going to clean up that edge also before I move away. And while I'm here, I'm going to clean up this edge, and I'm not adding too much color, I'm just dropping some stuff in. So what I'm trying to do is soften the background, and it's softer. So there's myriads of colors in here, but there's a big difference now between the flower and the background. So the flower can pop now. And what I'm going to do over here is I'm just going to add some yellow. Get that kind of warm. Clean up the edge. And let that red move. Now I keep my cute little brush keeps dropping some spots. So, but there's a big difference between the background now, and you're able to see this flower. All of this is wet. Now, as I look at this, I'm deciding, well, am I happy with this? Now that I've kind of obstructed some of the harsher edges that were there, I'm not sure that I like that, or I'm not sure that I like that. So while everything is wet, I can make some adjustments. And I think I'm going to just make an adjustment right in here. I'm just going to, ooh, that was a heck of a lot. And I'm just tilting the paper, letting it run, and letting the colors mingle. I'm going to do the same thing right here. I'm just going to put some red and let that mingle. I like that. This I'm not sure I like. Did that sound like good English? All of a sudden. I'm just going to put a little bit of blue in here. I'm going to let that run. Just because we've got these, ay caramba, spikes. Now with a damp clean brush, I can lift that off. I'm going to let this run that way. This is going to also run that way, but it's going to break up that spear, for lack of a better word. And I'm letting it move and I'm letting it settle. And now as it's settling, I'm just going to take that blue and I'm just going to bring it up to the petal edge. I'm not adding anything, I'm taking what's there and bringing it down. So it kind of has a little bit of a glow to it. And I like that. There. Okay, so I have background here also. So these are much redder now because I've used yellow and the perm rose, and this is just perm rose right here. And then we have some colors here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get that wonderful rosemary brush again, and I am going to go right in here, get that wet, and I'm going to go right in here and get this wet. So I'm getting this real wet, and this one I'm getting wet just so I can maximize the red in here and have that continue on. And I'm going to drop in some yellow, and it'll turn into a fiery red versus a cute little weak pink. Weak pink. Oh, I'm so clever. I can hardly stand it. Okay, so this is real wet, so I'm just going to go ahead and put some yellow in here. And if I'm working wet on wet and I have some creamy colors, they're going to be able to settle and move on their own, instead of me feeling like I have to use my brush to make those soften out. So I'm going to let that mingle and soften. So you can see this red links better to this red over here, and it's linking better over to this side also. That red is going into where the green is, and it's turning a dark color. So I'm going to go ahead and get my little number 6 brush, pick up some phthalo, because I like the green that's here, but I want this to pop a little bit more. So I'm just dropping in where it's wet, and I'm just going to let that move. You know, I should have taken pictures of these before I started, but I wasn't thinking that far enough in advance. Okay, so now I'm gonna just clean up this edge here, and this edge is fine, and I'm just gonna take this, what's here, and I'm gonna clean up this edge a little bit. And I'm going over a petal edge here, so I'm getting a little bit more in there to clean that edge up. And I can really see a bigger difference between the flower and the background now. So I hope that worked well. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to let this sit here for a little bit. But if you remember when we first started, there were lines in here, and there's more rounded shapes. There's a rounded shape here, it comes out there. There's some color over here. So, but the flower is really popping. And I wonder if I was smart enough to have mine. And I'll be right back. So you're studying this. And here's mine. Not to make anyone feel bad or anything, but just to show the difference in the background. So here's how I worked my background. So it's nice and soft and there's some movement, but I really like this one because we're really seeing the flower now. So Mo painted this dahlia and she got everything in except for the center, and all she needs to do is just watch the video because this is so beautiful. So she needs to take the time to go in, and all we did, and it's all in the video, I just used some neutral tint to bring some of this in, and I used neutral tint in here and down in here, and the dahlia really pops. So she's at a place where everything is there. Everything is there. She can see everything, and now it's time for her to go ahead and just put everything in because this deserves to be finished. You did a beautiful job. Okay. So I'm going to put this away. And I'm going to go to the next. This is beautiful. So this is Kat's, and she has a wonderful dahlia. Boy, it's a dahlia day today. So this is a white dahlia, and it's what I think they're the spider cactus flowers. I think it's called a spider dahlia because of all the points. But she went ahead and put a lovely point in here. So there's a nice bullseye here, but it's just right here. So I just want to add a little bit out here. And again, I just want to attend to the background just to smooth some of this out. So that's what I'm going to do. And I'm just going to work really right in here because she did a great job. And look at what a difference from over here where everything is nice and soft and muted, and then over here where it just got a little bit outlining. So I don't know if you guys understand what I mean by outlining, but it's just right almost all the way around these petal shapes. I just kind of want to soften that out so it doesn't look like we cut a flower and stuck it on. I can hear my voice, it's a little shaky. So I need to calm down. Okay, so I'm getting, let's go over here again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some yellow to this puddle, and everything is drying up so quickly. And I'm really just working with the primary colors. So I've got transparent yellow here. I've got permanent rose. And the dahlia, we used these colors, the red dahlia that I just worked on, but we also used another color, red, and that was Windsor red. It's very opaque, and it was super red. So I've got some phthalo blue. It's real heavy though, so I'm telling myself that to calm down. Okay, let's switch back. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit. So what I'm going to do is get this wet. I'm staying away from the edge. I'm coming close to the edge, but I'm not touching the edge. And let me fold that piece of paper over. And like I said, I'm getting close to the edge, but not touching the edge. And then I'm going to kind of stop right here because she has a wonderful softness in here. Okay, so I'm just going to re-wet a little bit. It's so hot, and under the lights it's even hotter. Okay, so what I'm going to do, it's so red here and it's so pale there. So I kind of want to tone down some of this. The opposite of red is green, and we have some greens right here, so it's making this red even that much more luscious. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of my transparent yellow. I'm going to take the tiniest bit of phthalo blue, and I am going to drop that in. And it just looks like phthalo blue, for crying out loud. But I'm just dropping that in. I'm going to drop that right there. I'm going to put that in here. So you can see where the paper is wet because all of the pigment is moving. It's moving and softening, and now I can get closer to the edge. And maybe I should be using a smaller brush. And I'm just trying to drop that in. So see how we're kind of outlined here? So I want to bring that, go ahead and just, if we're going to outline, let's outline. Know what I mean? Yes. And let's add some in here and over here. And that's a beautiful green. And to make that spread, I'm going to drop in some of that wonderful permanent rose. And I'm going to drop some in here. So remember, I didn't go up to the edge. So now I can clean up those edges. I'm going to drop some red in here. And I'm going to drop some red right in here. And I'm just going to let that play out. And I'm letting this all soften. I'm getting a bigger brush. And I'm getting a light amount of that greenish color. I don't want it too creamy. And maybe like right in here, I'm just going to break that up. And let this play out. I'm letting everything, I'm using gravity to let that all mingle. And if I don't like something, I can use gravity to push things back. I'm going to put a little bit of red right here, and I can have this be pushed back. And I'm going to do, see how there's this gorgeous soft edge there. Okay, so now I'm taking my little brush, a little number 6, and I'm just taking what's here and cleaning up an edge. Yeah.
Just a little, yeah.
And right in here, I need to clean this up. Wipe that brush off. Thank you. So instead of it looking like it's all outlined, it's softer in here. I hope you guys can see the difference. And there's a little bit more movement in here. I'm not sure that I like that movement right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop some yellow right in here, and I'm going to force that to move down while it's wet. And I'm letting gravity do everything. Ooh, I like that. It's blossomy, but I like it. So now that I've worked over here and it's a little bit softer and brighter, this is kind of pale. So I'm just going to quickly work this side. So I'm getting this damp right here, and I'm not going to come all the way over here. I just want a better transition between the two. So if I get this damp like that, and I have to get this damp, and I'll let that play out, move in, I'm going to go ahead, add a little bit of perm rose in here, and right up in here, and let that kind of soften and spread. So if I am using gravity and I got those areas wet, it's now going to be traveling. Okay, so with a damp, clean brush, I'm just going to be taking what's here and moving that in. It makes a better transition from the creamy right-hand side over here to this more muted side. And I like that it's not perfect and the same, so it gives it a little bit more interest. So it moves from intense to pale. And I'm just taking what's there. You know what? It's too pale. So I'm just going to drop in a little bit more of the perm rose and kind of clean up just a wee bit. Going to mingle this with some water, and you see how the green ended here, but here's where the petal is. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to put in a little bit of perm rose in here, and now just with a damp, clean brush, I'm just grabbing it, and I'm going to pull that off to the side. Now that's too bright, so I'm grabbing just the tiniest bit of that green that I made, and I'm letting this push into that, and it's dry right here, so I'm adding my damp brush and letting it touch. So it moves from vivid and deep colors over to soft colors, and this flower is so much better for that, I think. Okay, so right in here I just want to touch these up. That was a very creamy color that was put in here. And I'm not adding anything, I'm just taking my brush and I'm taking what's here and just moving that in and breathing. I don't want to pass out. When I get really nervous, I usually hold my breath, but I'm forcing myself to breathe. If I stop breathing, I start tensing up. When you tense up, what happens is your muscles get cramped. So, and right in here I want to fix this. There's a little bit of, it's just too light there. I'm just adding a little bit more. Not very wet, but that looks so much better. Okay, so now, without having a photo reference, what I want to do is, it's really dark right here, but I want to have a little bit more of a dark in here. So what I'm going to do, excuse me, is I'm mixing up a little bit of Perm Rose over here. And I'm going to get a little tiny bit of phthalo blue and make a nice lavender color. And this looks, I'm going to zoom in. This looks very lavendery. I don't know if you can see it, but I can see it. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put some of this color in. And we don't have a photo here anymore, but I just want to round some of these out and just make it a little bit of a softer edge in there. And so what I'm going to do, and that's pretty darn wet, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to soften that. With a damp, clean brush, I'm just softening that edge so it's not so harsh, and it'll help it have a little bit more of a glow. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some of that down in here, some over here, a little bit over here. And this purple, there's a lot of yellow in this, what do you call it, on these petals. And what's happening is that when we put, it's the opposite. So purple and yellow are opposites. So what I'm going to do is just soften that out. I'm just going to soften this out. Instead of it being so harsh, such a harsh edge, I'm kind of asking it to creep out a little bit. And I have to be aware that the background is wet, so not to... But do you see, just doing that little tiny bit, it's helping to set that flower in a little bit more. Because remember, I was talking about, it's hard for me to talk and paint at the same time, where we just had a ring here and it just stopped. So that helped carry that out a little bit more. And I want to do the same thing on some of these petals. But what I want to do is work with a different color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be putting some pink in here, even though I just worked on some of those. And I'm just going to get that a little bit pinker. So with a tiny bit of Perm Rose, woo, that was too much. So immediately I clean off my brush, put some water in it, and I'm just pulling that out. And I just want it right near the tip. Let's see if I could pick some of that up. And what's happening is we're giving this a little bit more weight. And I'm going to put a little bit in here. That's too much. So immediately I just dip my brush in water. There's more weight in here. These little bits of light that are hitting are really wonderful. So I'm going to put a little bit, and that's too much. So immediately wet the brush, stick that in, bring that out. And all I want to do is just kind of like tuck these in. And what's happening is the light is hitting out here, and it's causing a shadow here. So look at how much glow that has now. She had everything in here. We just had to take it out just a little bit more. And I think I'm going to put some right in here also. And it's just adding a little bit. That's all it required, was just a tiny bit of color. And it's the finishing really that helps to bring your focus in. And I'm going to add a little bit right in here. I'm doing I am doing connective glaze there. And I'm going to take this out. And I think I can add just a wee bit more of that purple right in here. And I have to watch where I'm sticking my arm. And that helps so much. Okay, so that's all I'm going to do to this. I'm going to back the camera off. So the light is hitting up here and it's causing a glow from behind, but we've got a little bit, it's a little bit deeper right in here, and that helps. If this, I don't want to paint on here because this is kind of damp, and maybe we could come back to it where it can add in just a little bit more, but I can't do that right now. But I think what I could do is just clean up a little bit. Oh, where am I wet? And so if we soften with a little bit of Perm Rose, around here, that helps. And if I get a little bit edgier, meaning working the edges, I can bring just a little bit more oomph to that center. So I put a little bit of Perm Rose in here just to clean up some of these little teeny tiny edges. And that helped. Okay, so I need to let this dry because it's damp right in here. I may come back to this and add a little bit more, but I can't right now. Okay, now to this lovely. So what's amazing is that I'm seeing where my students are putting everything down, but then as soon as they get to where all we have to do is just add like a connective glaze in here, where everything will become finished. They're not. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a big ass connective glaze in here to really make this pop. And I am getting my Perm Rose at, oh caramba, I just corrupted it. Oh, I know why. My table needs to be a little bit out of slant. There we go. So I'm cleaning this up, and I'm going to make a gorgeous connective glaze with Perm Rose. And instead of getting everything wet and then putting a glaze in, I'm just going to do this wet on dry. So I have to make sure that I have enough of a puddle that I can cover the whole thing. I'm really scared. Okay, so I've got a nice puddle there. So what's going to happen is, this is, as I do this wet on dry, I've got a great puddle here, and I am going to start here and work my way over all of this. So I'm working wet on dry. I can see where she's lifted some color, and I don't know if she has burnished the paper or not. But I'm going to go ahead and start from here and work that way, because I'm right-handed. So I don't want to start here and go this way, because I could be knocking my hand in wet paint and then marking it all over. So since I'm right-handed, I'm going to start to my left and work myself this way. Okay, so big breath. Oh my goodness. I'm thinking, you know, we did a lot in a little bit of time. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead, put that down, and I am doing a connective glaze over all of these petals here with permanent rose. I kind of want to keep this all nice and wet and keep it moving. I love these brushes. They have such a gorgeous point. And it looks really deep, but that's because the paint is wet. It'll dry lighter. Now, as I move over to an area that's really dark, I'm not going to keep painting and painting, because I don't want that dark to be moving. And if I keep moving, I'm going to be encouraging that dark to come right off the paper and start blending everywhere else. So I don't want to do that. So we've got a little leaf here. Wet paint is so gorgeous. And I am adding a little bit of water up here because I don't want it as deep. And then as I move down here, I'm adding that full pigment from the puddle again. So this is all in the shadow. So I'm moving. There's a lot I want to do to this, but there's only, I have to wait for things to dry before I could continue to move on. This was a fun project. And the peonies were a gift from a student. One year I did Open Studios, and she came with these little lollipops, which were these, that's what they look like, little lollipops, and they opened up to be these gorgeous peonies. And so I have too much color on here. I need to wick up some of this excess unless I can move it off the paper over here. So I added water up in here so it was lighter, and it's deeper down in here because it's all in the shadow, and I'm just going to pull that off. Okay, so I like that so much better. This is wet, this is all dry. I want to see the cup here a little bit better. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that same perm rose, but I'm not just going to be so heavy with it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here along this edge. Ay caramba, I keep doing that, or the brush keeps doing that. And I want there to give this a little bit more dimension. So I'm getting it wet with a little bit of Perm Rose. And I can see the inside. It gives it a little bit more dimension. And I hope you guys can see that. So there's a cup in here now. Where there was a cup, but it's more evident right now. And I'm just going to soften this out to nothing. I just took a little bit of water on my brush and just pulled that on out. So there's a deeper color here, and it just finishes out here. So this is where my pigment is going to lie. And so now I could just drop in a little bit more of that Perm Rose. I'm not painting, I'm just dropping some color in, letting it move along that rim edge, and then I can let it move back out. And so now there's a definite cup here that you can see where we couldn't before. So I want to do more to this, but I can't right now because this is all wet and this is wet. But I do want to come in and just hit a couple of these, and I want to work on the vase. We just need a few darks in here, but I'm afraid because there's still a sheen on here. I don't know if the camera can pick that up, but there's a definite sheen right here where it's wet. So if I put some color here, it could leach into this. So I'm just going to put this aside for a moment. And she did such a wonderful job. Okay, so I got quite a few of these. And this was a fun project, and this person looks like was using pencil, because I can see pencil. Aha! And I don't know if this is watercolor pencil or what, but I didn't notice that until now. And so this person has some wonderful darks in here, has a wonderful vase in here, but the shadow is lacking some oomph, so it's not really connected to this. Same thing with this one. I love the light ring here, but the shadow needs to be deeper, and the vase needs to have more heft and color also. And same with this one. So there's more color to put in here, there's more color to put in here, and we have to have more color in here so that they attach better. And so, I'm gonna do this one right here because it's there's a lot of color here, and there's a big disconnect between this shadow and what's happening here. And I'm gonna have to talk to this person because I don't know if this is color pencil or regular pencil, what the heck, but it looks good. So I'm going to clean off my palette. I'm gonna be working with phthalo blue, but I'm also going to be working with another blue, which is in Danthryn. And so I'm going to, right now, clean and wick this up. If I was working with dishes, I could just move the dishes aside, and then go to the next color. But, oh well. And this is phthalo, but some of that pink got in there. Okay, so I have my phthalo blue brush, and I'm going to add some more. I hope you guys are enjoying this. Okay.
I don't know if you want to take a break or run through 2 hours or not.
I'm okay.
All right.
Are you okay? Okay, so I have a phthalo blue puddle here. And I need this to tilt a little bit more. There we go. And I need another brush. And this is indanthrone. Oh God, I hope this is indanthrone. Yay, it is indanthrone. Okay, so I've got indanthrone here, which is a nice, deep, dark, bright blue. I use this sometimes instead of indigo because indigo, when you paint with it, if you're using it a lot, you'll see brush strokes. But with the indanthrone, you could get a nice flat color if you need it flat. So what I want to do is I want to add more weight to this shadow so that it looks better with the vase. Instead of just the vase ending here, if this had more weight to it, it would look better because there's so much white background in here and this is just too pale. So what I'm going to do is pray for luck and get this wet. So I've got all of these little fingers out here that I really don't want to cover up, but I want to add a lot of weight here. So if I lose some of this stuff, oh well. But I don't want to be losing these big fingers of color, of light out there. But in here it's okay. So what I'm going to do is just get the big area wet. And again, I am using a rosemary brush because it is nice and soft. So I'm going to get this wet. As best I can. This is going to mean a lot of moving. I'm going to try and stay away from these little lovely areas that we had masked off. But if we lose them, I think it'll be okay. It's more important that there be more color here to add punch to the punchy flowers and that beautiful blue vase. I've used this blue vase in a couple of paintings. I taught a workshop out at Cheap Joe's and used this vase, and we worked with beautiful little petite calla lilies. That's hard to say, calla lilies. Hepburn is coming to mind. Calla lilies, what an odd flower. Just don't get shaky, okay guys? We're shaky enough as it is. Okay, so I'm trying to work quickly and I keep dropping more water in to keep this wet. And because this is a gorgeous soft brush, it's not going to be lifting too much of the color that's underneath. Why did I pick this? This is a big challenge. It'll be fun. If I pass out, mouth to mouth, okay? Okay, so now I can work up closer to the vase. Add some water. This must be so much fun to watch. All I'm doing is getting the paper wet with water. Ooh! What magic, huh? Okay, I'm re-wetting everything because it's so hot in here, especially where I'm at. I'm under lights. And I don't have a fan on me because then you would hear the fan. Okay. So out here, I'm hoping I can take this out like how I did with the other backgrounds with the flowers. Yeah? Yeah. We'll see. Okay, so I've got that kind of work. The paper is kind of wet. So by the time I get here, everything should be able to move. And it got dry here really fast. Okay, so she went ahead and put some hard edges in here, and I'm just going to cover those up. And I'm ready. So I am going to grab some of that phthalo blue, and I'm just going to put that down. And I'm not taking it all the way into the vase because there's a little bit of a light leak, which I like. I'm going to let that move. I'm going to let that move down. And that is adding weight to the shadow, and it's linking the vase better. And I'm going to let these move down. And all of this should stay wet. What a gorgeous light leak here. And now I'm going to grab some of that indanthrone, and I'm just going to put that right here. And I'm going to let that just play out. Do you see how the shadow has more oomph, and it's allowing us to go into the vase and the flowers? And this can just move out. So I need to soften right in here. So all these wonderful little edges, these little shadow edges, are pulling us in and taking us out. It's adding a wonderful little bit of drama. As if this wasn't enough. And I just want this to blend a little bit better. And I'm wicking up some of this excess. So I'm wiping it off, picking it up the excess and wiping it off on the paper towel that's underneath. And I hope you guys could see the difference. I went way over, so I'm just taking some paper tissue and wicking up some of that. And I just want these to end a little bit prettier. So that was a lot of moving. Gonna let it run this way. So I'm not adding anything. I'm taking what's there and cleaning up these little edges to the best of my ability. And I don't know if you guys could see what I'm doing from where you are, but I sure can. There we go. That's much better. But do you see the difference? This connects so much better. This, by adding some phthalo blue in here and then putting that indanthrone in here while it was wet, it mirrors what's happening with this vase, and it's allowing that shadow to move out and dance, because there's a lot of dance happening in here. So one of the things that I'm not happy with about this painting is this is all rounded, and this should be a little bit more rounded. So this should move up a little bit right here. And I don't know what my student put here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to try something. And I'm getting a little bit of indanthrone on my brush. And I'm going to see if I can bring that up a little bit. And it works. So I don't know what that is that she put in there. But that helps. Just that little tiny bit. So I could bring that up a little bit more even. And if I bring this down and bring that up, that helps to alter. It was as if it was pulled. And now I'm going to get a creamy amount of indanthrone and put that right there. And that helps bring this up a little bit more. Okay? There could be a little bit more punch in the vase and the flowers, but I don't know what she was using in here. But I'm going to just get a little bit of purple, just the littlest bit, and it's real creamy. And I'm just going to see if I can make these a little bit thinner. Maybe break that up. Yeah, I don't know what this is. It almost looks like crayon. We'll have to have words later. I like what she did. Okay, so I want this less. It must be some kind of a waxy crayon. I just want to soften this out. These are stems that are underneath the vase, obviously. And so I just want to bring those down a little bit more. And she had a lot of punch with some of the color that she was using. I don't know what she was using there. Excuse me. So do you see? I hope you guys could see the difference. I got it wet, loaded the phthalo blue, put the indanthrone in, and now that this is sinking in, there's this wonderful light leak here, and then there is this gorgeous shadow. Now what I'm going to do, right in here, it kind of got a little dirty here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if I can scrub some of that out. I don't know if you guys can see what I'm seeing, but there's little splashes of color and things here. So I'm just going to get this wet. And I'm using a scrubber brush. It's very stiff. it's a connoisseur white Taklon brush. And I'm getting the paper wet. Oh, and I think I see a little bit of masking left over here. And I'm coming up. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to scrub. There's a little bit of yellow there. There's a little something there. But you can see the paper coming off the... And I'm trying to get rid of some of these splotchiness things that are happening here. Which will clean this up. And now I'm just going to wipe away. Ah, crap. And I don't know if you can see the difference, or I don't even know if you could have seen what I saw, but there's paper in here now, and so I'm flicking this so any embedded paper gets out of there. Because if I have wet paper inside of these bristles, it starts turning into concrete, because that wet paper is horrible, horrifying. So I want to make sure to keep my brush really clean. And right here, there's another little area. And that's cleaner. And is a little tiny bit of masking here, but it's been on so long, it may just stay there. But I've got a couple of little areas right down here where there's just a little bit of phthalo blue overage, and this is where I just was, so I shouldn't be doing this because I could be creating a blossom, but I just needed to. And right here, do you see this? Can you see that right there? So I get a little fussy sometimes. That's so close to where I was just working though. Oh, and right here. Now I have to let all of this dry because I can see where I wicked up some things and I want to clean those up, but this is still starting to sink in, so I don't want to get that wet. But look at the difference for this image. Having that shadow put in, remember it was more kind of like this shadow, if you recall. Now adding that weight with some color in there, these are, blend together so much better. It has a better impact than it being like this. All right. So, I'm just going to explain something. So, if you buy a project from me, from my website, what I do is I select an image, I usually trace an image, and then I copy this, and I'm able to print out 11 by 17, get a line drawing. But if you can't, I have it so that you can print out a top half and a bottom half, and you just put those together to get one of these. And then we put this on watercolor paper, hinge it from the back, put some graphite paper underneath, and then I use a red or a blue pen so that I know what I've traced. And then I can start painting. So this was called Los Altos because it's from Los Altos. This is one of my students' photographs. And I love it, except not this tree. And this is what we ended up painting. So if you go up really close, there's the tree, there's the distant mountains back there, there's a little orchard that was here, and then there's all the little grassy areas there. And that was so much fun to do. So anyway, like all the paintings I've been working on, I sell from my website under instruction, and there's a lot of guided classes in there. So that was a little pitch for me. Okay, I think I could come back to this one. Actually, it looks pretty darn good. There's more weight here. That center isn't alone anymore. There's more to it. I think I'm just going to add just the tiniest bit more. And I remember I made a violet out of perm rose and phthalo blue, and I'm just adding just a little bit before it dries up on me. And sometimes what I do is I get a petal wet first, like right here, and to get that damp. And now if I add the purple, I don't have to work so hard to soften that edge. And that's a lot less work. And it has a lot more impact. So I want to do that here also. So instead of just the darks being right here, it kind of helps to thread this through. I'm going to do the same thing right in here. Going to grab a little bit of that violet. Just blend that into what's wet, and that helps. It gives it more definition. I'm going to do that down here also. I was just here, but I just want a little bit more. So if I get this damp, it helps. There. And I want a little bit here and a little bit in here. Kind of got a little messy there. And it also ended a little abruptly. This, I think, whoops, I want a little tiny bit of perm rose. I'm going to put a little bit in here. There, that helps. So this isn't alone. There's more underneath now. This is so pretty. Okay. So the red sunk in. It's not as vibrant as it was when it was wet. and it's still a little damp, but I can work on the leaves now. She did a great job on the leaves. I want to make it dark, so I'm using the colors that were in the painting, and I cleaned off the perm rose, and now I need to get a perm rose puddle going. And I'm going to make a gorgeous dark, but I'm also going to make, no, oh, did you see what I just did? I went into my yellow. I was so excited. So when I need my yellow, I'm going to get a gorgeous orange. Okay, so I need to make a dark because I want the leaf to have some more darks in here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some red to our green. So I made this green with transparent yellow and phthalo blue. So I'm going to add some permanent rose to that. Wipe my blue brush off. And I'm just going to make a dark with the perm rose. There we go. It's getting there. There, let's just get our brush dirty. There we go. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get this damp out here. I'm going to get my dark. Oh, thank you. I got this wet out here, and now I'm adding my dark right here. And I'm cleaning up these edges. So all that work that she put into her veining is still there. I just want this set back deeper. And this is awfully bright, so I'm just gonna take that, make that darker, wipe this brush off, and just take it out because it really steals a lot of thunder of the red flowers. And I'm just pulling that out a little bit. It was so bright. Now she decided to leave this for some leaves, but she didn't do anything with it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to fill this in with a dark. And I'm just changing the shape of it. See how easy that was? Now I just want to take some of this down. So there's more depth to this. It's really going into the flower. So I see the leaf there. And I wanted a deep dark green. And what I wanted to do was just bring, I'm just doing a little bit. I'm not doing a continual line. And maybe I should zoom in so you can see what I'm doing. With that dark that I made up, I'm not following the whole thing. I'm using intermittent dashes on these lines. She got a little wonky here. So I don't want to create more wonkiness, so. And right along the edge, she did great. Down in here, this is kind of fluted, so I'm just adding dirty water, and I'm just kind of attaching where these would be, just with the dirty water there. And I'm just going to let that sit there. No, I'm not. I'm going to take it, and I'm going to, on this side of the line, I'm going to bring that down. Now, right here, from here down, this vase is frosted right in here. So I'm just going to add a little bit of dirty water, and I'm going to lighten that. So we just added a little bit more heft to this vase also. While this is damp, I'm just going to let it sit there. I'm going to get a dry amount of that dark color, so I'm not dropping in anything super wet. And I'm just dropping in a little bit of a dry amount of color in here, right up in here. And it just gives it that little frostiness that it needed. Now let me back off. Cool. So I told you I needed to, because I added such a vibrant color here, we have to add a little bit of a vibrancy up in here, just so that the light is hitting up here. So here and there, I'm going to be adding some pinks. So if I get this damp, I can add more pink in here. Why did I start there when I could have really added some pink there? So there's a separation here, so I can do that. And I need more pink on my brush, or a puddle. And I'm going to add some of that beautiful, gorgeous perm rose right in here. And that helps to set this and attach it. Ooh. I keep forgetting parts of this painting is wet. And I keep sticking my finger in it, or my hand. And I'm going to pull that out into here. So it's less, and I just drop some water there. In some areas, I'm just going to work and get that darker. It's all kind of abstract. There's some abstract shapes in here that I absolutely love. Not everything has to blend in perfectly. But if we get some of this darker, I'm doing a connective glaze over these two shapes right here. That helps, so I added some there. I'm taking a look at this in my, and I want to add some right in here. I'm looking at my monitor because it gives me a better idea instead of looking at the painting all the time. I'm going to add some right in here. And that is awfully yellow, so I'm going to take that pink right over to that yellow. This is awfully yellow. Or I shouldn't say awfully yellow. It's very yellow. And I'm going to tone that down. So see how I gently got that wet? And if I add some pink over to it, I'm going to do the same thing over here. Let's add some pink down in here. And it's matching better with all the red that's down in here. And that was just too yellow. Do a better connection. And I'm just going to add a little bit. Looks like a little lips or a bra. Do you see that? Probably not. I could zoom in a little. So I'm going to go over this. It's probably a shadow, but who knows? And I'm going to go over that. Because that was so yellow, I don't want too much white next to it. That looks better, so the light is hitting. I don't like doing polka dots or leopard's prints, and that's what we've got here. But it's easy for people once they start to keep continuing, because that's a lot easier than trying to figure out what it actually looks like. And I don't have a photo reference in front of me, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a burnt sienna. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some yellow to my pink. And it makes a nice orange. I need more yellow. God, everything's all dried up. So I have a gorgeous orange, and I'm just going to get the slightest amount of blue, and I have a gorgeous burnt sienna right there. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do some of these shapes. So they're, instead of having all these dashes, there's these male parts that come out, and sometimes we're doing the negative shape, sometimes we're doing the positive shape. But if I just start breaking this up, we're still seeing what's underneath, but I'm adding more punch to what's already here, which is helping us develop the inside of this cup shape of the peony. So I'm just taking what she did and I'm just adjusting. Just getting it a little bit deeper. And just let's break some of that up in here. And that looks so much better. So we see the cup shape. The light is hitting. This is all in shadow. And I want more pink out here if I have a little bit left. So what I'm going to do, because it's so pale out here, I'm getting this wet. And it is pale out here anyway, I remember. But we just need some more pink in here. Whew, that was a heck of a lot. And we're just gonna move that on down. And I'm gonna add a little bit right in here also. Helps to tie all this in together. Cool. So this changed incredibly from when I first got this. So by putting that gorgeous glaze in here, putting a little bit dark under the leaves, it set it back, adding a little bit of darks here, adding some here, changing this cup by adding a glaze in here, we really can see that the cup now, it's got some dimension. Okay, so finished with this one. Well, I can't do anymore because it's all wet. Finish with this one. And what time is it?
2:35.
Oh, so, ay caramba, 2:35. So, I really can't do much. So this is another student, and she worked on 140 weight paper, which is totally different than the 400-pound paper. You know, I told you this I'm gonna save for later. This I'm just gonna start, even though I told you I don't wanna start something that I can't finish, but look at what I was able to get done. So I just wanna go in here, so people are I always hear watercolors are so unforgiving, but they're not really if you use the right tools. You saw where I could pick things up, or you can add some things and all of that. So again, there's no way we can get to this, but we can make this thing on its own. And all I'm gonna do is try lifting some color off the background. So first of all, what I'm gonna do, I have, just to let you know, I've got some brushes. So these are scrubber brushes, and these are white Taklon, and it's a white Taklon scrubber by Connoisseur, and they had two different sizes. This is a 3/8 inch bevel edge, and this is a 1/8 inch. So this can get you in real tiny areas, but this will get a bigger area. And then I have some, Jerry's Artorama brushes, but they're more like a filbert, but I don't have them here. And then I also, if you go to like Joann's Fabrics or Michael's, these are by Tulip. I don't know if you can see, but it's a Tulip. And they're angled just like this, except these are a little bit softer. And these are fabric painting brushes, so you could dip your brush in the fabric paint and paint on fabric with them. I use them as a scrubber, or I lift with them. But I also use a bunch of different brushes for different reasons. These are softer chisel edges for cleaning up. Okay, just wanted to talk about that. Oh, here's one of Jerry's scrubbing brushes. And this is a small. They come in a 3-pack, and this is the tiny one, and there's a bigger one. All right, so what I want to do is I want to get this wet. All of a sudden I'm really, really scared. Again. And if I just get this wet, color will start coming right off the paper. And I don't want to work the whole thing, but I just want to get to where I can lift off a little bit, especially the perimeter of the wing there. And we can make little bits, little bouquets, bokehs. I'm going to go right in here also. It's like, I feel like an archaeologist or a paleontologist. I feel like I'm digging for something, and I'm hoping it's treasure. But anyway, I just want to lift off some of the color there and see what's underneath. And I want to go in here also. And I'm just starting this. I can finish this later. But you can see how much came off. I'm going to work right here also. I'm just deciding what to see what's underneath and what I could do. And if I just do little bits at a time, it will be, I think, helpful. And boy, when she put these darks down, she used a very staining color, which is good if you wanted it to get dark. And I just want to see what we can get underneath. So I'm not pressing it in, I'm grabbing the moisture and pulling it off. There's a little bit more of a glow around this butterfly. It may be this butterfly was dancing in the moonlight, right? But if we, instead of it just being so flat, maybe we can bring some of it up. So it has a nice little halo instead of it being cut all the way around. And this is just the first part of me lifting some color off. So if I get it wet and then wiggle the brush, it'll lift the color easier off the paper. Oh, I can see where I'm splashing. And so there's a little bit color that's underneath. And I know that working on this butterfly, this was all nice and dark here, but it was a little out of focus. And this is where we wanted the dark, deep colors. And in here, we wanted this a little bit more, shall I say, soft-edged. So I'm going to wipe some of that off. And I'll show what I mean. So on this side of the butterfly, the sun was coming this way. So it was hitting, and this was in the shadow. So you see it's not a brightly colored, it's a little bit more soft. all the vivid colors. I have a phthalo blue, I have some celadon greens in here, I have some bright oranges in here, and then some really nice deep darks. And over here it's just a little bit more soft and a little bit more mottled so that I can see this little bugger's eye. Here's one of his antenna, here's another antenna, and then here's his little dancing legs. And I thought that butterflies had 6 legs, but this one only had 4. Caterpillars, they got tons, right? But, and anyway, so I just wanted to change that because this, to me, I don't know if you guys can see it, but to me this looks like a fish right here. Here's the top of the head. Doesn't that look like a fish eye? And doesn't that look like a fish mouth? And then here like a minnow or something, an orange minnow. And so that's what we have to do over here, and we'll just cut that in. So, but anyway, I've lifted a little bit of color. It was easy to lift, so I am going to be working on this, and but not right now. There's no way to finish it. But I just wanted to show you that where watercolor doesn't have to be something that is unrepairable. And I think I'm gonna drink something. All of a sudden I'm awfully dry. So were there any questions at all?
No.
Oh, wow.
I think everybody's just really watching. You've got
Oh
like,
God, I hope so.
you've got like 23 to 26 people watching the entire time. So. I think you are presenting all the information, which is probably why people aren't asking.
All right. So there's a little, excuse me, bit of time left. So remember how I showed you where we had a lot of the blue flowers with the blue vase and the blue shadow? Well, I had a couple, oh, it's right in front of me, of these. So someone brought this in and someone brought that in. And so this is very pale on one hand. It's so, for me as an instructor, what's so much fun is seeing everybody's personality come out. So some people are really tentative and some people are just bold and they think they just go for it. This is too bold though. So I'm not going to be able to finish this either. But this is on 140 weight paper. And what I want to do is I will work on this. I should show mine. So here's mine. It was so much fun to paint. This, so there is a sunrise happening. This is in Oregon. This is on my cousin's property and the sun was coming up. This is a barn looking outside the window and there was a porch light, or I don't know, a porch light, a spotlight, whatever, on the barn. But to me, it looked like the sun was coming through. But I loved that it was so blue, and so I put a lot of pinks and yellows in here. I should say not a lot. It's not super vibrant, but you could really see it. And I have some pinks and some yellows out here, very, very faint, because this is also dang blue. But I love the fence. I love the fence back here. Love the barn. and the brambles. I think these might be blackberry bushes or some kind of vines that grow on that fence, and the bank of snow, and the snow-laden tree. And so what I did was, as I was painting, I don't know if you can see where all the lines are broken up. So it's not a continual line. There's a lot of dashes here because the snow is obscuring a lot of the branches. And what's happening here is there's some little bits of broken branches, but these are really continual. And this is so bright and blue, and there's a bunch of different colors, and I would like this to be a little bit more soft and cohesive. And this one is soft and cohesive, but I wish there was more color in this one. And so we've got the barn, we have the light in here, and see all the drawing. This was hard to follow. There were so many lines in the painting. But what I would do on this is I would just get this wet with water, just like I was doing on the butterfly background, and just lightly lift off some of the color, wipe it off, and then when it's dry, we can get this area wet and drop in color. So we can add some pinks and some other colors, but we're getting rid of all the creamy, oh my God, this was so creamy, some creamy color there, and it'll be more cohesive. So this has wonderful shades of blues and pinks, but this one doesn't look as, how do I say, melded as this one. And let's work it all at once so that it's kind of flat, so when we put our branches in, those will be the stars. So when I put mine in, all of this, there were bits of sky also that shine through, so it was all broken up. So I added my color and mingled, but I stayed away from little bits of area where we wanted the sky to poke through. And so I've got phthalo blue, I have indanthrone, and I also have some pinks in here. And it's all kind of modeled and worked together. And this person did a great job of doing that. And now we just have to be a little bit stronger of putting our darks in. So it looks like she started and then tried to take some of it off. So Sue, we're gonna have to work on this one. And then there's nothing wrong with redoing this, starting over if you love this, but let's start off on the right foot by putting our colors down where we want them and letting them mingle all at once instead of working separate shapes. So I could see where these were worked separately. And I'm trying to see what time it is, but I have my glasses on.
2:53, so probably you should.
Okay, so I'm done. I'm hot. I'm hot. And trying to move the lights away. So I don't know if any of you guys have any questions. And if you don't have any questions, I had a ball. And I hope I explained things in a way that you could understand. Where the hell is that light? Over here. So just work, and I like to work with just a few colors, you know. It's amazing. You just saw me working with 3 colors, transparent yellow, permanent rose, and phthalo blue, and I could get a myriad of colors out of that. I made a burnt sienna, using lifting just with water, putting your brush down and wiggling it and wiping it off. Or if you need to, you could just punch up color that's already there. Like in some of the backgrounds, I just went over If there were sharp edges and we wanted that blended a little bit better or a softer effect, I just got it wet, dropped color right over it, left it alone, and let it mingle and soften over it. And maybe I could show that now that they're dry. So in here worked getting a little bit more weight down in here. And if you remember, these were almost looked like they were cut out. And now the background is a little bit softer. It's more potent with a rich color on this side to a lighter color over here. But you could really feel the light hitting and filtering underneath. So it has a wonderful a dancing with light and shadow quality. And this one over here, this one, if you recall, everything was kind of mimicking these. They're still mimicking a little bit, but these colors are blended and they're soft. So we have all these sharp edges here, so it offsets the flower. And the person that did this is here, and I'm so proud of what she got here, and I want her to really work to finish this off, especially because she hated this right here. So I changed this flower just for her. So there's the center to do, and you've already started and you worked well with getting the deeps in here. Now you just have more to do. And we're working with more with the opaque color, the Windsor red and the neutral tint. You could do it. This to me was easy, but for everybody it seems this is the hard part. You did so beautiful in here, so I want you to finish that. And I'll be happy to help you with that too. And with this, it was adding some oomph in here, adding more punch there, giving a little bit more definition to the vase, and there was a little blank area here, and I toned down that leaf, and I gave this more of a cup shape, so it has more dimension. And I think that's all what I did. And again, just starting on this to uncover what's underneath, where people say watercolor is so unforgiving, but this looks so different already. So I had a ball. Really, you should join SWA. Go to their website, and everything is right in there. So like I said, just go to How to Become a Member tab. And thank you all, and thank all of you for coming today. And that's it, I'm gonna sign out. Thanks, bye.